The title of it is called Recognitions, Oil Paintings and Some Quilts. I've always sewed and enjoyed sewing a lot. One field of color, or you have to design how the colors go together in ways that paint doesn't quite match. Quilting, forever. I don't even really know when I started that. Painting, I've done that off and on as well, but I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, I've really kind of amped it up. I've always loved making things. I've done that my whole life, and off and on with painting, but like I said, I think in the last couple of years I've gotten a little bit more serious. I wanted to make more paintings or more things that were more visual. I worked on these for about 1.5 years, maybe a little longer. Most of the paintings, like 90% of the paintings and the quilts, are based in Yarmouth. I have taught at the high school for the last 16 years. I'm an English teacher and more recently a multilingual instructional support teacher. I do take a lot of pictures, and I print out a lot of pictures, and I kind of hang them up and look at them. On a really good day, I might sketch or even paint in a location. I see something and I'm curious about it, and I drive by it a couple days in a row, and then I might stop the car and on the way to work and look at it some more and take a bunch of pictures and then be curious about it, and then maybe make a painting. I have painted on location, but it's just time. One thing I've learned is painting, it takes every ounce of my energy, just like working does. I'd love to do more painting outside, plein air painting, but these were all done in my house. Sometimes I even cut up paper to try to figure out how I want, how the thing wants to be. It kind of makes you curious driving around, and I'm probably more interested in the aesthetics or the images of things. I think size is kind of interesting. I don't love making huge paintings. My house is really tiny, and small works are, they're more affordable, and they're you can fit them in your house easily. I like thinking about the size or the shape. Does that want to be square? Does it want to be rectangle? I underpaint everything with acrylics, and I started to get really into really bright colors. I think you can tell light is something that I want to capture, so super bright colors underneath. And then I think that kind of provides a guide with the oil paint. I'm not afraid to paint over things. In fact, sometimes I love building up lots and lots of layers of paint and going back into things, or I'll let it sit and then I'll go back into it and add more. There's a couple of graveyard monuments that I've painted, and so find out who those people were a little bit. I tried to include all their names and make sure that I got all that information. The ruins, there's a painting of the ruins and also a quilt of the ruins. The first time I saw those, I was like, what are these things? I love that they're still sitting there, and that park has a really deep history. It didn't used to look like that. I hoped people would recognize a lot of these places that would make them curious to go to that cemetery and try to find the monument that I painted, just because it's creating a curiosity. Place as an artist, I think, is really important to me. Painting a lot of these scenes or these buildings or these structures is kind of acknowledging that curiosity or that interest. I sew a lot of clothing. Sewing clothing is just following a pattern and sewing the lines the right way, and then when you're done, you've made the thing that somebody else has designed, which is really great and satisfying, but then you're not really making your own thing. So when the reverse shapes are actually really interesting of clothing, because there's lots of curves. So that's kind of where quilting started for me, because it was very tactile and fabric and layers of things, but what I came up with was my own, as opposed to just following somebody else's pattern. They're all based on the painting. So this one over here is the shingles from the schoolhouse, but kind of abstracted. The one over here is the bridge. It's kind of the truss of the bridge in sort of rusty metal. The one at the entrance is the ruins of the old mill. And I just kind of played with how they moved around. And over there are the wrapped boats from the boatyard. So that really was a winter painting, but those shapes I thought were really interesting. So that's how those quilts happened. And maybe this is a little bit from quilting too, like angles, lines, repetition, those things I think are just interesting when you like encounter them at a bridge or in the woods or wherever, kind of zooming in on those corners or those angles or those lines. Then it opens up like the color, because the rust isn't really just red or orange, it's kind of purple. And how did it get purple? I don't know, like, let's see where that goes. So it's kind of funny, like on West Elm Street, you have to look really quickly to see it, but it's a really beautiful angle up, I think it's Church Street, and on nice mornings the light hits it in really great ways. I'm sure people have seen me parked there taking pictures and looking at it and going, what is she doing? But I think it's just kind of a stunning, very simple, clean, blue sky, and like I think it's really stunning. And there it is, right on my way to work. And so in one of those mornings, at the old meeting house at the Baptist, I guess it's called the Baptist Cemetery, I was like, oh, look at that monument. And so I started taking some pictures of that and being curious about it, and what would that look like to paint it? And it was really interesting to paint. It's like simple. I feel like the shape can, sort of tells you how to put the paint down on the canvas. And then I started looking for more of them. And the other cemetery that I went to is on Route 88. Those are taller, and I'm kind of shorter, so to see those up close takes maybe a little bit more standing on my tippy toes, or maybe in the painting of them I had to play with the angle a little bit more. But they're mossy, and they've been there a really long time, and again, like blue winter sky and these mossy monuments to people. So there's 3 that are in the show. I did many more, but those were the 3 that made it in. The titles are named for the people who are buried under the monument. I think with any of them, I never I never said, I'm gonna paint that. Like, it just kind of came from a much more natural curiosity. So that process I described of like looking at the church and then going, oh, what's that? And then having some conversations with Katie Worthing about, do you know who any of these folks are? I don't know why power lines, but they're not the first power line paintings I've done, but I enjoy painting those. The bridge, so there's a lot of history there. It's the Grand Trunk Railroad. So I live in Portland, and when you go over the 295 bridge, there's an old bridge that swings, and that's also part of the Grand Trunk Railroad. So there's a rabbit hole of research, really just aesthetically, like the rusty kind of reddish purple colors of the bridge. When you come around the curve, the reflection is really cool. I've seen it in all seasons, so like in the spring and the summer, when the greens are really deep, or I've skated the Royal River in the winter, and so the bridge is, that's where you start or where you end. And so it's just kind of a monument that's here. It's actually the picture, if you look out the window of the History Center, they're pretty parallel. So the painting is kind of right at that same angle. Beth Condon, that's a very sad story. I don't know if she was a junior or a senior at the high school, and she was hit by a drunk driver and was killed. And that whole pathway is called the Beth Condon pathway. And so that bridge goes over the Royal River, I'm pretty sure. One of the things that strikes me about Yarmouth, not only the beautiful History Center and the library, but you can get anywhere on a trail in Yarmouth. And there are constantly people on bikes, people walking, people running. The network of trails is very amazing. All the schools are connected, all the parks are connected. It's really a beautiful bridge, and the painting was like a late start snow day. I was kind of antsy and ready to go, so I walked through the park. It was a really great day to see that bridge. So the old schoolhouse is on, I guess that's West Maine, 115. The first time I went there was with a group of students doing a writing camp in the summer, and Katie and the History Center were like gracious enough to let us go in and sit in the tiny little desks and imagine ourselves, 100 years ago back in school. I think that building, even though it's very old, looks very modern. When I made the painting, I kind of wanted to make the whole painting the building. Maybe don't put something front and center, but that's how it wanted to be in the painting. It's got a very deep history, and it's just kind of tucked in this corner as you come around on the road. And I've always admired it, loved it. When the day that I took the picture and was there to think about making a painting of it, the contrast of like the dark trees and the white of the shingles was really quite stunning. I don't know, we needed a painting of 295, I don't know. But the light on that day, that was another really kind of sharp light winter day. I had actually been down there to take pictures of the boatyard and those wrapped boats because I thought those were really interesting. And then that just kind of happened, and I thought I was going to make a painting of the like water, but the bridge was the thing that said, "Paint me," on that day. So that's what happened. Buildings and structures, I really love painting those, but I also am an avid hiker, and a good friend and I hiked all of the 4,000-foot mountains in New Hampshire over the last bunch of years. And so I have a lot of paintings of the White Mountains, you know, summits, trails, woods. I don't know, I wanted to include some other pieces that were not just of Yarmouth. The lake, Lonesome Lake, that was the last day that when we finished the 48. So that was sort of a kind of special, like glassy, really early in the morning. That painting came together, and you know, wanted to let other folks see it too. Winter Maine nights, rainy, going home Route 1, and there's a new bank on the left, and there's an ATM that I would pass every night. And then, you know, one day I was like, maybe we need a picture of the ATM. And I think that one is sort of funny. I hope people think it's funny because it's kind of glowing, and then there's a green light on it, which, I don't know, you could, all kinds of symbolism. I feel very lucky. This town has given me a lot of opportunities. I've taught here for 16 years, and I kind of can't go to the Hannaford without seeing a former student or a parent, or, you know, be anywhere actually without running into somebody that I know. So that feels like a gift for somebody who I moved around quite a bit when I was younger. The sense of place of this town, and you know, the pride people feel in the schools, and being a teacher in this town, people kind of recognize you and want to say hi. And so having an art show here, I feel really lucky. Many folks came at the opening, which was really nice. I think the Yarmouth History Center is just a beautiful resource for the town, and there's a huge amount of history here, which I only know a small amount of. You know, I wish every town could have a history center like this one. Katie's amazing, generous, and I think what she's done here at the History Center is really amazing. So we have the museum. I've brought students here, and we've looked in the archives and found all kinds of interesting things to write about and historical figures. And now she has this, you know, the History Center has this beautiful gallery. So I think there's so much here, and I think Katie has done a really great job. I have a website. I try to post Instagram, but I'm happy to get in touch with anybody.
For more information about the Yarmouth History Center, please visit www.yarmouthmehistory.org or visit us at the History Center. We're at 118 East Elm Street in Yarmouth, and we're open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 until 4.